Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. So today we are going to continue researching for my family history using the Genealogy Research Workbook. This workbook is available from Amazon. It will be linked down below. It is a great tool to help you keep track of your family history as you're doing researching. I have a flip through of this workbook on my channel, and I've used it in my prior research sessions. So I am also going to be using Ancestry.com, using my iPad, and I will have a video of Ancestry.com as I'm searching posted in the corner. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to spend some time today trying to fill in some of the gaps in my census tracker. So I am starting to research my maternal grandfather, who is Jim Walker. I have done extensive research on my grandmother, Ethel Lou, so she will not be the focus of this research period, which will probably last several months for me. I am building out my Walker family tree is what I'm doing. So my maternal grandfather, whose name was Jim Walker. I have started to build out his family group sheet using this book. This is the family group sheet. It's a great place to keep track of marriages and all the children in a family. And then the census tracker is where you go in and you take that information from the family group sheet, write the names at the top, and you try to track that person throughout census years to see where they were physically, and that will just kind of give you more information to continue your research. And it also allows you to clearly see where you have gaps in your research. So looking at what I have for Jim Walker and his family unit, I see some gaps, right? Because some of these people I can't find in certain census records. And today I'm going to try and close this gap for Jim Walker, and I think I have closed it. But for example, Annie Marshall was his first wife, and my grandmother, Ethel Lou, was his second wife. Well, I can find Jim with his second wife, my grandmother, in 1950, but I can't find Annie. And I know she didn't pass. She didn't die. I can't find Annie or his older children with Annie in 1950. So that's why that's empty. And he didn't marry my grandmother until later in life. So I don't have my grandmother listed here in 1940 and 1930. Although I can find her, I believe, in those census years because I have done extensive work on her family. I'm just not focused on that right now for Jim. But I will fill that in when I get it. Today I want to talk about Jim. So let me go ahead and pull up Ancestry because I want to go ahead and fill in that gap where I can. So you will see that I have Ancestry pulled up for the 1900 census record because I know that I was able to find him in Chambers County, Alabama, and this is the record. Now, when you pull up someone on the census transcription side, like this is the transcribed record. If I click on the thumbnail, I can see the actual record and see my ancestor listed on the actual census record. And this is a great tool to use. But when you look at the transcribed version of that, everything from that record is transcribed for easy reading. But you have to be careful because some things can be misspelled and things like that. But what's really beneficial from this view is that Ancestry will suggest records to you off to the right. And some of these records may be relevant to your ancestor, and sometimes it's for a different person, so you do have to check. For example, if I click in here, I see I have several records about birth, death, and marriages. So if I click on one of the county marriages, I see where he married Annie Marshall in 1916, which I have that information here. So that is definitely his information there. If I click on his death and burials, I see where he died in Shelby County in 1967. That matches with the information my mother shared with me. So this is the correct information. So that's how you use these suggested records off to the right. But what was interesting to me is that I have a gap for him in 1920. I could find him in every census except 1920, and I couldn't figure out why. I saw this record over to the right, Alabama U.S. convict records for Jim Walker. And my mother told me that my grandfather spent time in prison for a crime, so I knew that this was him. When I click on the record and I look into it in detail, I see that in Chambers County, he was sentenced to a prison term in 1919. That is why he is not in the 1920 census record anywhere. And in 1990, or I could find him in a different county where the prison is, but that's why he's not in Chambers County where his home is. He was sentenced to 9 years and 2 days for attempted murder. A to M, attempted to murder. And he was scheduled for release. He was released 1928. So my grandfather was not in Chambers County. He was in Kilby Prison in 1920. What I find interesting about that is he had just married his first wife in 1916. He had just had, or his first wife had just delivered their daughter in 1919. So, or she delivered soon after he left, whatever the case may be, the same year that he was sentenced. So his son was born the year before. So I really wonder what happened to make him commit such a heinous crime. And he spent the next 9 years away from his family. When he came back, it was almost 1930. And they left, just looking at the census tracker, they left Chambers County pretty much immediately after that and went to Shelby County, which is a distance away from Chambers. And he rebuilt his life in Shelby County. So I just wonder what story is behind that prison sentence. This is what I mean by DNA cannot tell you the story of your family. It can give you the science. It can give you the genetics. But it can't uncover stories. So this is going to be something that I keep researching because I want to find out what happened. What happened to make a man with 2 young children, a brand new wife, try to commit murder and end up as a black male in 1919 in a maximum security prison? I'd like to know. But just an example again of how research can help you uncover stories. That is why he was not showing in the 1920 census. Also, using something like this to help you keep track of your records and help you keep track of where you find people and where you have gaps helps you to know that you need to look in alternate places, because that was a glaring gap, right? And I needed to fill it. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful.